Good evening and welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar with Michael Billington and Sally Simpson.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
The funding crisis hitting hospices in our region, threatening services for people at the end of their lives.
If you have a child, you don't have to have a coffee morning or jump out of a plane to fund the cost of that. Why do we have to do that for dying?
Postcode lottery for eye care. The patients who fear irreversible sight loss as they face lengthy waits for appointments.
When I have experienced delays, I have noticed a decrease in my eyesight, in my left eye. And anything you lose, you don't get back.
It should be maths, English, science, farming. That's what I think personally. I would have gone to school more then.
The star of Clarkson's Farm says farming should be on the curriculum as the average age of those in the industry pushes 60.
And we're meeting the very good dogs who are transforming the lives of autistic children and their families. Good evening. First tonight, patients reaching the end of their lives could be denied support and services because of funding shortfall in hospices caused by inflation.
One hospice, St Michael's in Harrogate, says places like it across the country are at huge risk because the government doesn't prioritise how we're looked after when we die.
Just 17% of its £5.5 million annual running costs are met by government funding, which hasn't kept up with inflation. It's left the charity with a £500,000 gap in its finances, as Helen Steele reports.
It's almost like, death happens at a hospice, but life is celebrated.
It's an uncomfortable subject, but how their loved one died made all the difference to Beth Crew and her family.
After he did die, they said, go off and have a cup of tea and come back. And when we came back, they'd moved him to a comfortable position and put a flower next to his head. And it was such a nice touch, wasn't it? And we always remember that.
Bill Crew was 52 and seemingly healthy when he was diagnosed with bowel cancer. His family received the news in hospital and they knew it's not where they wanted him to die.
I hated going to hospital, didn't like it at all. But I think coming here with the support you get, it did feel quite, not to say it's spiritual, but it did feel there's something special. I can't something special about here.
And you want other people to carry on with the benefit of that, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely carry on for anybody.
But St Michael's Hospice in Harrogate is worried about the future. That's because government funding only accounts for less than a fifth of running costs. This year's amount has increased by just over 1%. Inflation stands at 8%.
I'm worried that all services are at threat. They're under risk. They are across hospices throughout the UK. If you have a child, you don't have to have a coffee morning or jump out of a plane to fund the cost of that. Why do we have to do that for dying?
Here at St Michael's, they say they face a £500,000 shortfall in government funding. And it's a similar story across the country. According to research by Hospice UK, there's a £47 million gulf between actual funding for hospices and what the figure would have been had it kept pace with inflation.
We are seeing the situation getting worse. Hospices are having to make difficult decisions, have difficult conversations about what the future of their services might look like.
So this is one of our bedrooms.
With expensive equipment and more than 100 staff to pay, the hospice now needs the public's help more than ever.
It's obviously really concerning for us about the gap in funding because we rely on people's donations to be able to provide this service to our patients and their loved ones, so it's really important.
Do whatever you can. If you want to do a marathon or if you want to just make a donation, please do. We need to find this money, and if you can help us, please just try and give generously.
Yeah, definitely.
He said make sure you support them.
I mean, he would be supporting it.
Keeping the hospice going is as important to patients of the past as it will be to patients of the future. Helen Steele, ITV News in Harrogate.
Well, we've approached the government for a response to the concerns raised in Helen Steele's piece and are waiting to hear back.
Next tonight, a priest who led an evangelical movement in Sheffield in the 1980s and 1990s has appeared in court to face multiple allegations of sexual offences against former members of a church congregation.
The Reverend Christopher Brain appeared at Sheffield Magistrates Court facing charges in relation to 11 women. Adam Fowler reports.
The hearing only lasted a few minutes and the Reverend Christopher Brain spoke only to confirm his name, date of birth and address. He's facing 34 charges from 11 different women. That's 1 count of rape and 33 counts of indecent assault, all alleged to have happened between 1981 and 1995. The Reverend Christopher Brain led a movement called the 9 o'clock service in Sheffield between 1986 and 1995. The 66-year-old will stand trial at Sheffield Crown Court and a date has been set for that of April the 15th. Adam Fowler, ITV News, Sheffield Magistrates Court.
OK, some more news in brief now. And on the 15th anniversary of Claudia Lawrence's disappearance in York, police have issued a plea for anyone with information to come forward to end her family's pain. Claudia was 35 when she went missing in 2009. She was last seen walking from her job as a chef at the city's university. Detectives suspect she was murdered, but her body has never been found. Today, North Yorkshire Police said the single barrier to finding answers is the silence of people who know or suspect what happened to her.
A new clinic to provide potentially life-saving treatment for those struggling with gambling addictions opens in Sheffield today. The NHS is warning gambling plays a role in hundreds of deaths every year, with the majority of those harmed being younger men who gamble online. The clinic in Sheffield is one of 15 across England.
A lot of what we've been seeing over the years is preventable, unnecessary harm, the main cause of which is the sort of the liberal laws and the commercial environment. It's so easy, so accessible now, particularly online where people have now got a casino in their pocket.
Well, next, people in need of eye care face a postcode lottery when it comes to getting an appointment, opticians say. More than 50,000 people in our region are affected by NHS waiting list delays, with many waiting more than a year.
Well, the group representing High Street Opticians says many routine appointments to prevent sight loss that normally take place in hospitals could be offered by them instead. But it's not currently a service offered everywhere. Catherine Walker reports.
In Selby, professional artist Andrew is lucky that he can still see to paint after being diagnosed with an eye condition called AMD. His disease can be slowed down with regular injections every 4 weeks. But his first appointment was delayed, causing irreversible sight loss.
When I have experienced delays, I have noticed a decrease in my eyesight, in my left eye, and anything you lose you don't get back. You just don't get it back. It's very scary. My biggest fear is that I'll go blind.
The latest figures from the health authorities in our region show it's a widespread problem, with more than 50,000 people on the waiting list to see an NHS eye doctor. Over 600 of those have been waiting for more than a year.
So how are you feeling at the moment, Barry?
To help clear the backlog, the industry body for eye care professionals say High Street Opticians could take on some of those patients.
An optometrist in the community is not just someone who sells glasses. It's really important to understand they undergo further qualifications. They are able to differentiate between eye diseases, different types like cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration. So optometrists, I think, in the community are definitely, without doubt, undervalued and underutilised.
Under the current system, some opticians can offer enhanced services, but it's a postcode lottery. In Knaresborough, Gary Hass says all optometrists should be able to offer routine care for local NHS patients.
So it would be better because, first of all, we can do it in a timely manner, but also it would be much easier for the patient because they can go and see their local optician rather than having to travel to a hospital which may be further away. And so we can then look at the patients and see that their sight and the condition of their eyes and deal with it in a timely manner.
In a statement, the government told ITV News that cutting waiting lists is one of our top priorities. NHS England is looking at how more patients can be managed in the community, freeing up capacity at hospital eye services. But at the moment, England is the only country in the UK without a national eye strategy. And patients like Andrew say it's time to focus on a clear plan to stop preventable sight loss. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Thank you for watching Monday night's calendar. Do stay with us because still to come on the programme this evening. Marching on to the Premier League, Leeds United go top of the Championship after beating Millwall. We'll have a roundup of the weekend sport.
And it certainly felt like spring has sprung over the weekend and some typically spring changeable weather ahead this week. I'll have all the details later on in the programme.
Next tonight, to efforts to cultivate a new generation of farmers.
Yes, the average age of a farmer in our region is now pushing 60, with fewer and fewer fresh recruits wanting to get into the profession.
So now one of the stars of Clarkson's Farm is calling for agriculture to be added to the school curriculum, alongside English, maths and science, to inspire a new crop of young farmers. Here's Nick Smith.
Young farmers like Rebecca Wilson from Boroughbridge in North Yorkshire are an increasingly rare breed. Government figures show that just 3% of those running a farm are under 35, while more than a third are now beyond retirement age. And Rebecca admits those who aren't born into farming families like she was can struggle to find ways into the industry.
Young people probably don't necessarily see farming as a career. It can seem very difficult, long hours, challenging kind of realities. You know, we're in the lambing shed now and it's not always an easy day in here. The money side of farming is also really, really tricky. We can't necessarily pay people coming into the industry a fair wage. So if you're not born into it and your family aren't farming, there's a lot of jobs out there which look a lot more tempting.
United Nations research claims the UK needs to double its food production by 2050, and efforts are underway to recruit new blood.
Are you ready? That's as straight as a roundabout!
Amazon Prime's Clarkson's Farm introduced millions to Caleb Cooper, Jeremy's right-hand man, guiding the presenter as he tries his own hand at working the land.
I love the cows, I love the arable side and growing wheat.
The 25-year-old has always wanted to work on farms, and he tells me he's now using his profile to inspire more youngsters to consider it as a career.
I firmly believe we should be teaching farming as a GCSE. It should be maths, English, science, farming. That's what I think personally. I would have gone to school more then. But there's always a job in agriculture. For example, if you come out with A stars and you're really good with science, you can go and sit down the agronomy side of the industry and start maybe developing crops to grow better in different climates. Or you can become an engineer, or you become a farmer itself. There's so many different job opportunities out there. I firmly believe we should be, teaching farming in school.
But we make hay in the summer. It smells lovely. We farm cows, cattle, and we grow crops. So the cows that we produce will go for beef production. So if you've eaten a McDonald's, you've probably eaten some of the cows from my farm.
The National Farmers Union is encouraging farmers to visit schools under a scheme to raise pupil awareness about where food comes from.
I guess you never really think about farming because to us food is from the supermarket. So this assembly today kind of made you think of like where your origins of food come from.
It's not really a well-spoken career path, and actually today really made me think it should be more spoken about in schools because I think it would be a really good career path to go into.
Farming still has perceptions of being an ageing profession, facilitating our food's journey from field to fork. But young farmers with a passion for their vocation are on a mission to change that, to try to sustain their industry for new generations. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Interesting stuff. Now the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, Vladimir Putin threatens protesters in Russia with punishment after he wins his 5th term in office. The warning comes after his landslide victory, condemned as a sham by some world leaders. Also on the programme, 2 years after the mass sacking of nearly 800 P&O ferry workers, ITV News discovers the company is still paying some of its seafarers less than half the minimum wage. And it is the end of the road for Britain's most successful female Olympian. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Mary, thank you. Now, a Red Arrows veteran from Harrogate has taken a trip down memory lane, joining a reunion of pilots and crew to mark the start of the display team's 60th season.
Yes, Peter Evans joined other founding members to celebrate the famous aerobatics team's history and help inspire a new generation of pilots, as Jonathan Brown reports.
Old and new together in mid-air.
2 generations of Red Arrow jet joining forces over Lincolnshire. Back on solid ground, pilots past were welcomed back, surveying familiar formations from afar ahead of the display team's 60th season.
There were no rules in those days.
Peter, who's from Harrogate, joined the Red Arrows in 1966. Its longevity to him still astounds.
It's amazing, really, that they can. You know, I'm sure the politicians would like to cancel it if they could, but you know, it's part of Britain.
More than half a century on, he was reunited with the Nat jets first used by the team, as well as Henry.
Let's go and look at the jet.
One of the few surviving original members, he recently turned 90 years of age.
It's wonderful being here. I mean, when we started, we had no idea that it would last this long. I mean, I'd love to think they're going to be here for as long as the Air Force is going to be here.
The likes of Holly, a 16-year-old air cadet, could be part of that future. She received a special invite after completing her first solo flight in January.
This has massively inspired me. I mean, before my ideas were kind of like maybe Red Arrows, but now they're like, okay, yeah, that's what I want to do in the future.
But while the iconic red livery of these famous jets for many is a symbol of Britain, it could all have been very different. Before they were red, they were yellow. The Yellow Jacks Aerobatics group combined with other RAF display teams to become the Red Arrows in 1964.
Now for a dress rehearsal.
It was the following year they'd embark on their first display season, beginning what's become an airborne institution. As synonymous with Britain as the landmarks themselves, for much of their story, the Red Arrows have been linked to Lincolnshire. But that came under threat when the government announced RAF Scampton, their home for all but 6 of the previous 40 years, would close. In 2022, a move to Waddington saved the day. Meanwhile, questions have been asked about a toxic culture inside the team itself. Last year, an investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct and bullying between 2017 and 2021 led to a series of dismissals. How confident are you that those problems have been solved and that there is a bright future for the Red Arrows?
I'm extremely confident. As the officer commanding, it's my job to ensure that everybody on the team is included and treated fairly, and there's no place in the Royal Air Force or indeed the Red Arrows for unacceptable or inappropriate behaviour. We have moved on and are in a very different place now, so I'm very confident that the team is in a good place.
With dozens of high-octane displays diaried for a landmark season ahead, people here hope after a turbulent few years on the ground, the focus can once again return to their exploits in the skies. Jonathan Brown, ITV News, RAF Waddington.
Well, every day's a school day, isn't it? Who knew they used to be yellow?
I never knew. 60 years of flying and I never knew that they used to be yellow.
News to me.
There you go.
Right, well, time for some sport now. And Leeds United are marching on championship promotion.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
And Chris is with us. Chris, it's turning into quite the year for Leeds United.
It really is, Sally. Yeah, top of the league for the first time this year after what's been an incredible run of results. Now, just want to show you this. This was the league table at the turn of the year. As you can see, Leeds in 4th position there, 17 points behind top of the league Leicester. Now, let's have a look at the league table as it stands today. As you can see, Leeds now level on points with Leicester at the top. Granted, they've played a game more, but what a run they're on. Yesterday's 2-0 win over Millwall at Ellen Road was their 12th victory in 13 championship matches. Willie Nonto and Dan James were the scorers. But news today that Jorginho Ruta, the man who set up James's goal, will now have surgery on a hernia problem. The club hope he won't miss any games and will be back in action after the international break. OK, elsewhere in the Championship over the weekend, a goalless draw between Rotherham and Huddersfield helped neither team really, whereas Sheffield Wednesday were thrashed 6-0 at Ipswich. Barnsley were also held to a goalless draw in League One, but Mansfield are looking good bets for promotion from League Two. The Stags ran riot in Bradford on Saturday, winning by 5-1, and it included one of the best goalmouth scrambles you're ever likely to see. Perseverance, I think, was the key there. Now, check out this first-time finish from Doncaster's Maxime Biemu. Not a bad way to score your first goal for the club, whereas Harrogate drew drew 0-0 at Barrow. Now, Chesterfield would have been promoted back to the Football League at the weekend had they beaten Oldham. Well, they did well to come back from 2-0 down to rescue a point, but it wasn't enough. It means the Spyrites, who are a massive 24 points clear at the top of the National League, will go up tomorrow if Barnet fail to beat Eastleigh. I mean, even if they do, it's just delaying the inevitable. It's hardly sticking your neck on the line to say Chesterfield are going up this season. Now, it was a poor weekend for our region's Super League clubs. Leeds, Huddersfield, Castleford all losing, but better news for our ice hockey teams. The Leeds Knights clinched the NIHL National League title for a second successive year. These were the scenes last night after their 6-3 win over the Bees, whereas 2 wins over the weekend, including this shootout victory over Nottingham, means the Sheffield Steelers can claim their first League title since 2016 if they win at Cardiff on Wednesday. What a week it's been for the Sheffield Steelers after they won the Challenge Cup last Wednesday. Great stuff for them.
Flying, aren't they? Doing
They
well.
certainly
Always
are.
good to see.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, finally from us to the life-changing work of an army of poochers who are helping families with autistic children all over our region and beyond. Assistance animals, trained by the Support Dogs charity in Sheffield, have been helping the likes of 7-year-old Noah Dolman, who's from Leeds, for more than 30 years.
Yes, his dog, Rafe, calms him down when he's overwhelmed and guides him away from danger. And to mark Neurodiversity Celebration Week, we sent journalist Bobby Beavers, who's also autistic, to pay the family a visit.
They're best of friends. Noah and his dog Rafe are inseparable.
Don't sniff it.
But this golden Labrador is more than a canine companion. He's brought with him toys, fun, and the answers to questions Noah's parents didn't know the answers to.
When he was about 6 months old, he didn't sort of do the same as all his friends were doing. All his friends were talking and he wasn't, and sort of he didn't have any road safety or no danger awareness at all. So yeah, it was really worrying, but now obviously I wouldn't change it for the world.
Noah is autistic and can become easily overwhelmed. During the pandemic, his mum applied for an assistance dog after reading about them online, and the rest is history.
When Noah's upset, he'll go up to Noah and sort of try and distract him. He'll bring him a toy or something and Noah will go off and play, or if he's on the floor or on the sofa upset, Rafe will go and lay on him.
Right on cue. And there are plenty more Rafes in training.
Good boy.
Davey is one of around 50 support dogs learning how to help people with a range of disabilities every year. The Sheffield-based charity spends 2 years teaching autism-specific skills that it says can make a big difference.
Lots of the kids really want that pressure as well on them, so if they're getting really upset and stressed out, that dog maybe laying on their legs or putting their head on the thing, that can be really soothing and really relaxing. It not just helps that child, but it also helps that wider family. It helps the parents to focus on the wonderful side of autism and all the characteristics and really enjoying the personality and the wonderfulness of your own child, and really just bringing that joy back into that household.
The work of the volunteers and trainers here has led to hundreds of success stories. Something psychologists like Shona put down to the many mental and physical benefits that these dogs can bring.
It's palpable. They're more relaxed, they're more able to go out and about and do things, and that, like, the reduction in anxiety and the reduction in stress isn't just for the child that's autistic, it's for the people around them. I think it would be about the sort of sensory, about the regulation, slower pace and heart rate. It would probably be about a lot of physiological things, I think, happen.
Unlocking confidence in young people who are autistic can also mean opening up new opportunities for them to grow. Being neurodiverse can mean the world can be quite a scary place, but having a canine friend like David to walk alongside you can make a huge difference.
Rafe's had a massive impact on our lives and is everybody's best friend. Noah absolutely adores him because obviously he doesn't speak fully, so it's hard to interact and communicate with adults or people, but whereas with pets, obviously they don't talk either, so he's just got this sort of bond with them.
For the Dolmans, Rafe's positive presence and guidance through recent years has set them on a path they never thought possible. Taking life's challenges as they come, he's there every step of the way. Bobby Beavers, ITV News.
Oh, they do a great job, don't they? And I know the people who train those dogs as well find it really rewarding. I've been out to speak to people that have trained them before they go on to become assistance dogs, and it's a really rewarding career for them as well.
Oh yeah, and what a massive difference Rafe is making to little Noah's life.
It's lovely to see, isn't it? Right, now let's see if spring is sprung. Here's Jo with the weather.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. It'll be a changeable week weather-wise, with showers never too far away. In general, it'll feel mild over the next few days and nights, eventually turning a little colder into this weekend. The warm hues still on the temperature contour sequence as we go through this week, with showery rain featuring over the next couple of days. As we head through into Friday, a dip of colder air across the UK means a return to frosts Friday night into Saturday. Quite a short-lived thing through next week, becoming mild once again. Now back to this evening, cloud will build ahead of some showery rain that moves in from the west. Certainly the early hours of tomorrow morning pushing its way east out towards North Sea coasts. A breezy night to come, plenty of cloud cover, and as a consequence a mild night, 8 or 9 Celsius away from towns. On to tomorrow. First of all, the sun will be rising at 6:10, setting nearly 6:20 tomorrow evening. For most places, a relatively quiet, dry start to the day, but breezy. And then some showery rain moves its way eastwards across the region through the morning, but quickly skies will brighten behind it. And there may be the odd shower, particularly south of the Humber later on in the afternoon. But it's a good deal drier for most. And temperature-wise, still on the mild side, 14 or 15 Celsius, with winds really dropping away to nothing by the end of the day. Into tomorrow evening and down to the southwest, some rain begins to move in. That will push into our part of the world through tomorrow night, and that means a rather damp start to Wednesday, but mild again, gradually improving. And then over the next couple of days, showery rain never too far away, starting to feel a little colder Friday night into Saturday. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Don't know about spring being sprung.
You're struggling with this, aren't you?
Looks a bit chilly to me. That's it from us, though, for now.
I'll be back with the late news this evening at 10:30. Mary Nightingale is next. I'll see you later on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.